All right. We are live. Bear with me here, folks. I just got to get a couple of things put together here. And we are live on Amazon. And I just got to find my tool set, wherever I put that tool set. Things keep like moving around in here. Where did I put it? Maybe it's over by the computer to begin with. Yeah, so we're going to be taking a look at the Framework laptop today. And I'm starting earlier because this is just when it made sense to start. So that is why we are starting right now. And as soon as my screwdriver set turns up, we will get to work. Now the first thing we're going to do is open this thing up and take it apart. And the reason is that this is supposedly a very easy to work on computer that is actually more than marginally upgradable. And you can buy it, I guess, bare bones, with your own components that you can pick out. But there's some limitations to that. So we'll step through that as we take it apart. And I don't know where so I hit the button to start before I had all my stuff together. And now, I don't know where I put my Oriya screwdriver set, but maybe we don't need it. We'll find out. So we'll figure it out. Yeah, a lot of viewers are excited for this. And, I am. However, I have a feeling that the general public's excitement is not quite there. And I base this solely on traffic patterns coming to my own videos. That I don't know, and I hate to say this because that's important to me, but I don't know if general consumers feel as strongly about this open hardware design as we tech people do, right? Oh, my computer's broken, I'll just get another one. Or it's been a couple of years, right? And I'll just get another computer. So it's hard to say. I'm excited about this because, and I think like the MacBook Air, I'm going to talk about this in my review. The MacBook Air with the M1 is a great example. So if you were to, and we did this in my review of it, if you were to compare the M1 Mac to the Intel Mac Air, they look identical. You cannot tell them apart by looking at them. And yet, if you had that Intel one that you bought maybe a year earlier, you couldn't just swap out the guts and put in the M1 chip and get a performance boost. You have to buy a whole new computer. So the philosophy here is, you know what? Use it for a couple of years. When the battery goes, here's how you replace it. We're not going to restrict you from only buying the Framework battery. When that motherboard gets a little too old, we will let you, swap it out. And then you can use the old one as a desktop if you wanted to. And that's kind of the approach that they're taking with it, which I like a lot. I like that idea. The question is there enough of a business? There it is. Is there enough of a business there to make that worthwhile? And I think that's something time will tell. But the team behind this is very skilled. So and it's funny, this is my brother's, by the way. My brother bought this. And when I was up there, I took it. And I said, I'm going to set it up for you, and then I'm going to send it back. So my brother up in Vermont bought one of these things. He went to high school with one of the founders. And the founder of this, I think it's the man's last name is Patel, was a lead product designer of the Oculus Quest. So he's got some real experience making hardware. So you're going to see, and I've seen pictures of it. I haven't actually touched it yet. But you will see examples of, I think, very mature product design for a company that's brand new. So it's coming from that experience. So let's say hello to some folks, and then we'll take it out of the box and see what it's all about. So we have Dava is here. Romeric is here. Much earlier than I usually do things here. Tristan Leonard likes it. And Earth Crosser wants to know what's inside. Me too. Dava got his first batch of Pfizer. I got my third one the other day, so it knocked me out on Friday. But I had some things in the hopper, so I was able to get through with it. I was a little out of it for the Major Nelson interview because that was the evening of my booster shot. So I was a little worn out, but I was much better than I was on the third one versus the second one. Tristan Leonard says it comes with a screwdriver. And it looks like the only screwdriver we need is the one that comes in there. So we'll have to take a look at that. Chris just got his order through. Linus invested in the company. You know what's funny? If you look at their traffic, Linus Tech Tips, they get more traffic than The Verge and all these other big corporately owned media and things out there. And I would argue that all of us little guys and gals actually do collectively better than those big corporate ones do too. MG First says I should look at the Fairphone next. All right, I'll put it on the list. And Greg M says, people I deal with, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. So I'll give you a great example. So yesterday, and I'm dragging this out because I'm seeing the numbers increase. So I'm just like, I'm just going to drag this out a little bit longer. So yesterday, I ordered the new MacBook Pro. I buy a new one like every 5 years. So whenever they do a major upgrade, I buy the new one because it's my day-to-day work machine. The MacBook Air, believe it or not, has been my day-to-day work machine over the last year. It's that good. But I still use the MacBook Pro that I had 2 MacBooks ago. So the MacBook Pro 2012, the first Retina one, that's what Jake uses to edit the videos that you see on the channel. And it still works. So the plan now is that when my new one comes in, I'm going to give him my old MacBook Pro. The Air is going to be my travel machine. And then the 2012, believe it or not, is still worth like $200 or $300. And you think about it, the 2012 is what I launched my channel from. I have extracted so much value from that computer, even though it's not upgradable. But it still works fine. I mean, the keyboard's a little dead on it, but that's about it. Lon Tech Tips. Maybe I should invest in this framework company. I don't know. I just feel like this is a hard value proposition for consumers. I just feel like consumers don't care enough about it. And I'll give you some more examples of this. Whenever we talk about right to repair, you all that are watching right now are into it, right? The long tail on the videos, whenever we talk about it, among the lowest traffic topics that I cover. So, you know what I mean? That's kind of the bellwether for me. Oliver says they put back. Yes, they did. It's got the ports again. David Langley is here. New Age IT Solution is here. All right, let's open the box because Ernesto says it's time to open the box. All right, we'll get going. And I'll say hello to some more people in a little bit. All right, so let's see what's inside. Now, again, in disclosure, this is not a freebie. My brother bought this, and then when I was up there in Vermont, I got this is the invoice here. When I was up there in Vermont, I picked it up. Now, this is the professional version, which has the i7 processor on board. And we're going to look at a couple of things here as we take it out of the box. So the computer is here. What are these things? Well, these are little modules that plug in. So this is, you can choose the ports that your computer is going to have. And what they've got baked in are these little USB Type-C adapters, and you plug these into the casing, and then you get another port on the other side. So this one, and this is what Josh picked for his. So he wanted a standard USB-A port. So we got one of those. He also got a USB Type-C port. I got to save all this packaging because I have to send this back to him later this week after I review it. My goal is to spend all day working on this, so that's what I plan to do. So he's got a USB-C to USB-C. This will make sense in a few minutes when we get further into it. And then we have, I'm breaking this box completely, another USB-A. Looks like he likes, this is my brother's choice now. He likes the USB-A stuff. So there you go. Two USB-As, a USB-C. Looks like he bought a couple of these, like maybe more than it has ports for. We'll find out. And then he got a DisplayPort output for outputting video. What's this one? It's like little jewel boxes here. And then he got a lot of these ports. I guess he's planning to like swap them out because you can just hot swap these, is my understanding, because they're just USB adapters on the other end here. This is a micro SD card slot. And then this one is another USB-A. So he's got, I'm not sure how he picked out his computer here, to be honest with you. But it shows you, like, I think what's neat about this is that for my brother, having more USB-A ports is important. I probably would have gone with more USB-Cs or an HDMI. All right, so we've got all these little adapters here. All right. Yes, and there is, Greg M points out, you can also buy a storage module that would go into one of those ports. That is correct. All right, and this is the power adapter. This is like your standard USB Type-C power. And everything about this, they're trying to keep it very standard. And again, the question is going to be, will consumers respond to this? Will they buy? This must be one of those GAN adapters. This is a very small power adapter. So this is it, very tiny. Now, what is the wattage on this sucker? So this will output 60 watts. This has got to be a GAN, because look how small it is for 60 watts. Right? That appears smaller than what your run-of-the-mill power adapter would be, wouldn't it? All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes here, the actual computer. So we have like a box within a box. Now this is their first product. It is 13.5 inches. And he got the professional one, which is good because this is kind of the higher end model. So they have like an i5. This is the i7. And you've got like a neat little design here. And here is the laptop itself. It's a little heavy. It's definitely heavier than my Mac is. But it feels nice. It's all metal. And you'll note here that it's got 4 different slots, so we can slide in these modules, right? So let's say we want to have the USB-As one on each side, so I can put one in there. They click in really nicely, actually. They got a nice click. Listen to this. Ready? Isn't that nice? So nice little click there. And then we'll do a USB-C. He really loaded up on these USB-As. So it looks like he ordered 2 extra ones. And you can just swap these out. There's a button here. I'm guessing that must release the lock, perhaps, on these. Yeah, so when you push that down, you can pull them out. So that they lock in. And I'll put a USB-C over here. And then we'll do a card reader on the other side. Okay. And this is the screwdriver. And from what I'm gathering in the chat, this is the only screwdriver we need. So we'll see what goes on there. And let's see what else we got here. We got a little manual. And they give you instructions for installing everything. 5 fasteners to get inside the framework laptop. So that is actually the first thing we're going to do. And underneath, there is nothing else. This is like glued on. Yeah, it's glued on there. So it may not need my fancy Oriya tool set here, although I'll keep it visible because I have to have the product visible in the... So we're going to go with the included one. It's kind of a nice... it's got like a spudger built in also. I'll give you another view of it here. So it's got like a spudger and a screwdriver here on the top. Yes, and John points out something that is going to be part of my review, which is that there is no Thunderbolt on these. And to be honest, I think that's a pretty big omission. And I don't know if there was some hardware reason for that, but it probably is because they wanted the flexibility of having these modules. I think that's probably it. So what I'm going to do first, actually, is take these back out because we want to take this apart and see what's inside. Let's see how easy it is to get into this thing. And my understanding is that you have to take the screws out. You all can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think you take the screws out and then you open up from the keyboard side. I think the whole keyboard deck lifts up. I could be wrong about that, so let's see when we get into it. And I'm just going to get my magnetic screw holder here. Now, the other thing on the display is that the display is not glued on. In fact, nothing on here uses adhesives. Should not scratch up his computer already here. But if you've ever seen my brother's equipment, everything gets scratched up pretty good. So I think what we have to do here, from what I'm reading everybody says, is I have to take the screws out and then flip it over, which we'll do. And these screws come out super easy. Like, they're not even, there's no like tension on them. Do they even come out? No, it looks like they stay in the case. Yeah, they don't even actually come out. You know, it's funny, like a lot of times like the manufacturers tighten these screws up so heavily that you can't even, you strip them just trying to get at them. These are super, they're not loose, but they just loosen very easily. Oh, this one came out completely, so let's put that one over there. I think maybe they do have to screw all the way out. And then we'll flip around on the keyboard side. Yeah, they don't want to come out that easily. That one did over there, but these seem to be a little more finicky. I just want to loose screws on the floor. Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm getting up a little bit higher and then pulling them out. And this screwdriver is magnetic also. And from what they are saying to us, you only need this one tool. So you don't even need the fancy screwdriver set that I have here. So the screws don't want to give it up that easily. There we go, get that guy out of there. Okay. But as you know, we often take apart computers on the channel. And it's often like an exercise in patience. This one I think might be a little bit easier. I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. You have to like pull the screws up just to get a grip for that last mile there, because they do want to come out. Oops. But it's kind of refreshing to not have these screws be like super tight. Like they just come out like they're just ready to go. It's like they almost invite you to take them out of the case. So yeah, they're kind of captive, but they, like one of them just came right out. So I think I just want to get them all out of here so we can do this easily. All right, so now we're going to flip it over. And apparently what we need to do now is just separate the keyboard deck from, it's a little floppy, isn't it? We need to do is separate the keyboard deck from the bottom part, is my understanding. So we're going to use the spudger here to do that. And it seems like it's pretty, oh, that's it. Wow, that was not hard. Usually like you're not forcing it, but you're often giving it a good wallop. This is like, oh my goodness, look at that. Okay, so it comes out like so. And there is a ribbon cable that you have to be careful about, but it goes in right here, so you could easily just detach that. And that's it, so you get access to the whole thing. So let me show you the overhead here. So I think what I might do is shoot a B-roll clip for my review later. But that is it. Now my understanding is that you can detach the motherboard section. So what that includes, and I'm seeing how perhaps there's like two extenders there. So what we've got here is you've got a USB Type-C connectors here. There's a module that these things dock with that connect to the main board. So the main board starts kind of at the border of this device and goes all the way to that end. And so you can pull the entire motherboard out and replace it. Now it also appears just trying to get a lay of the land here. Is there 2 storage connectors? Let's see. Let's pop the... I know I'm asking for trouble now if I pull that out, but let's see. What is underneath this thing here? Yeah, it looks like there's... Yep, there's another NV... no, probably not, actually, now that I look at that. Because that one ends here. So I can't see an NVMe going over that. Maybe somebody in the chat can respond. I think there's only 1 storage slot on this, but everything is replaceable. So I could, swap in my own equipment, my own Wi-Fi and all that stuff. That comes out super easy there. And there's replacement screws in the chassis also. So where do they put those? Oh, in here. Maybe in the back here? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's for the keyboard. I see. So they label everything out so you know exactly what does what. Oh, this is really cool. All right, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to shoot a little B-roll here. Oh, you know what? It magnetically, that's cool. So this is actually magnetic. It just snapped back in. Look how easy that is. But it snaps right back into place. So there's no adhesive on this. And I guess the frame of the display is also magnetic. So you can easily like swap that out if you don't like. Yeah, look at that. It comes right off. So check it out. Just like that. Just comes right out. And it's just magnetic. So Stephen says that it is Thunderbolt capable, but they haven't been approved by Intel yet. So is it USB 4 then, or USB 3? USB-C. I got to look up the specs on this. Yeah, so Nirav Patel is the guy that went to school with my brother. They went to high school together. Nick92 says he tried one of these. This is on the Amazon chat, but he was not impressed. Lizbeth Merrill is here. Hello. Yeah, and I think the deal with this is that it's easily, the maintenance is easy. You know what I might do? I'm going to take this apart when I review it because I think it'll flow better in the review itself. Because it comes apart so easily. I mean, look at that. You don't even need the spudger. Here I was going in with the spudger, and you don't even need it. And then on the bottom here of the keyboard, I don't want to twist that cable too much. Here, I'll show it to you on this camera here. It's got all the screws labeled for taking out the keyboard, because the keyboard is also replaceable. The keys feel pretty good. And then if you want to change out the bezel here, this is one thing. It might be a little too easy to do this part, because it just comes off like that easy. It's held in by magnets. And then you have physical switches up here for the microphone and for the webcam. And it apparently has a 1080p webcam. It does flop around a lot. That's the one thing, the hinge, and we'll see when I screw it all back together, but I don't see that, because this is not screwed into the top part. It just feels really floppy. I don't know if anyone else who has one of these feels the same way. Although, you know what, it could be, yeah, we should maybe screw it back together and see if it gets more stable. Because the hinge is not great on this. Yeah, it might just be because let me screw it back together real quick. It's actually so easy to get into this thing that it won't be, because a lot of times when we do these laptop reviews, it's there's so much time invested in trying to take it apart that I just do it during the live stream because it's just so much easier. But this thing is actually pretty easy to get into. I mean, who would have thought like a magnetic keyboard deck? Go figure. So let's put these screws back in, and we'll boot it up. And again, he got the professional version, so this has got, I think he got it with 16 gigs of RAM. At least that's what it looked like when I had it open. and he has, this is my brother's, by the way. So 16 gigs of RAM, and the i7 variant. Yeah, it feels like it's fastening down a little better. And then we'll put all those modules back in and see if those work better. All right, so now we're going to just plop in some of these modules here. And we'll boot it up, see how it does. I'm just plopping in some random ones. Yeah, he only got one USB-C port, so it looks like the USB-As are more important to my brother than the USB-Cs. Okay, so now I've screwed it back together. Let's see. Yeah, it's still it's very floppy. You see how springy it is? So, I'm not crazy about that. Yeah, it's not going to be perfect for a first product, but it does bounce around a lot. But you can't, I can't take the bottom off now because it's screwed back in. And here's another thing I look for. I'm a stickler on this. Ah, look at that. So it's well balanced enough when you lift it up. Doesn't move, so that's good. Okay. So getting some more info on the Thunderbolt here. I need to write some of this down, I think. Michael says 2 Thunderbolt on the left are 1 lane. So are the 2 on the right. So if you want to hook up a Thunderbolt dock and eGPU, make sure you hook them on left and right respectively. So the 2 Thunderbolts on the left are 1 lane. So are the 2 on the right. So if you want to hook up Thunderbolt dock. Oh, I see. So it's only 1 lane versus 4 or 2. I can't remember what. Isn't Thunderbolt typically 4 lanes? So I need to look up some of this before I shoot later. I'm just putting some notes into my thing here. So I'm hearing that these are actually Thunderbolt ports, but they did not get Intel certifications, so that's why they're not. But I need to just get some clarification on that, so I will dig into that a little bit. All right, so let's continue onward here. 1 lane instead of 4, yeah. So I question, you know, it's good that if it is Thunderbolt compatible, but you know, most laptops with this class of processor have a 4-lane Thunderbolt connection. And Thunderbolt's pretty important to me, to be honest, because I dock to docking stations with my Macs. That's a pretty big thing for me. All right, so here's the power connector. Now, what's interesting is that, let me plug this in real quick. You have to have the USB-C module attached to get power to it, because otherwise you can't boot it up, right? But you can put it anywhere. But if you don't have one of the USB-C modules installed, there's no power. So make sure you got that connected. But yeah, I don't see any other power option on here but that. So that'll be something to keep in mind. It does go flat though, not a 2-in-1, but I just don't like how springy it is. So not perfect by any stretch. But if you want flexibility in how you work on your computer, it could be very flexible. All right, so let's plug that in, plug this in, and then I've got my external hard drive here so we can install some software on it. And of course, Josh only got 1 USB-C module, so I'll have to go dig up my other USB cable. This one will work. Yeah, that one will work. All right, so we're going to boot it up, see what happens. But I like that it's got like a physical microphone switch here at the top. That's pretty cool. Now we're not seeing anything on the display yet. The light's on. That could indicate it's charging maybe? Let's see. This is also a fingerprint reader. Oh, I just turned it off. Oh, there it goes. I just saw something flash. There it goes. Okay, now it's booting. Now, by the way, this will also run Linux. This one came with Windows pre-installed, but it will also do Linux. It's a very glossy display. All right, so now we're booting up Windows, and what I'm going to do is log in with my usual. Oh, does it have touch screen? No. You know, it's funny. It's such a glossy screen. You would expect that it would be touch screen, but it's not. Okay. Yeah, it feels okay to me. You know, it doesn't feel bad. You know, it's up there with some of the other ones I've looked at. I'm just going to connect it to my Wi-Fi 6 access point here. All right, we are connected. The mouse is a little weird because I'm tapping on it and it's not registering. But it could just be some driver installation stuff that it has to do. See, I'm saying you should be working. Well, I'm working, so you could just say that you're helping me work. Then you can say that you're working too. It's a 400 nit display, by the way, so it's got decent brightness. The fan is running, not all that loud. It's a larger fan, so it's quieter. But we'll see how it comes together here. I just really I don't like this hinge at all. It's just not tight. You know, it's just not tight. It just really jumps around a lot because if the desk shakes, it just retains a lot of energy or snaps it back. And the only reason why there's seen some discussion on the touch thing, the only reason why I was expecting it to be a touch screen is because it is so glossy. Like it's glossier than my MacBook Air's screen. But the contrast ratio looks nice. So for example, right now this is just a completely black screen. And now it's becoming blue, but when it first came up, so I'm not seeing any screen bleed through. The black level when it came up was pretty good. So watch what happens. I'm clicking. Now it took it. I'm going to have to do some fine tuning of the thing there. See, I'm clicking and it's not like. It's almost like it disabled the click part and is waiting for me to tap to click, which I don't like to do. We'll get in there and mess with that a little bit. Yeah, it's just not registering clicks. So the physical click, it's not registering. All right, right now I'm setting up the fingerprint sensor. All right, gotta create my pin now. I see what I did? I was thinking I could just tap it. All right, skip all this junk. You know, we'll check too. We'll see if it will work with Windows 11 when it boots up, because Nick is asking that. I probably won't. I I have no issue with Windows 11 other than the fact that I want to wait for like the 0.1 to come out. And because it's so new, I don't know how it might impact benchmarks compared to other computers. So we're going to stick with Windows 10 for now. But yeah, this is to Nick's question here. You must have just missed it. Everything in this laptop is upgradable. However, the upgradability does have some of the limitations that you would have on other laptops in that there's no GPU on this. You can't add one. If you want to swap out the processor, you got to swap out the whole motherboard, which is not hard on this laptop. You just unscrew a couple of things and pull it out. But you can't just like swap out an individual chip. But you can do the memory, you can do the Wi-Fi, you can do the storage. And it's really easy to get into it. As we saw, all we have, it comes with the only tool you need, they say. Once you unscrew the bottom 5 screws, you can just pull the keyboard off. It's just magnetically attached, so there's no adhesive anywhere. Likewise, if I wanted to get at the display here, I can just pull off the bezel and just work on it that way. So it's got, it's designed to be wrenched on, in other words. Eric has been doing Windows 10. Yeah, we see a lot of Windows 10 around here. The other thing we get a lot of around here is Cortana saying, "Hi, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help." Every time we reset one of these things to ship them back to the manufacturers. But yeah, I'm going to wait, just as Win32 here recommends, is wait for the 0.1 update. But like, for example, on my production system, Windows 10 works fine. So it ain't broke, don't fix it until vMix says use it, because, like, let's put it this way, if vMix says, hey, we got some new features, but you have to have Windows 11, then I'll upgrade Windows to Windows 11. But until then, we're staying put. All right, I don't want to do any of this. All right, so here we are. I'm going to adjust the screens. Yeah, the mouse just doesn't register. It's weird. See that? I'm like clicking. And I'm like clicking 2 or 3 times to get, see that? But it does tap to click just fine. I think I'll do like 150. So let's go into the trackpad and see what's going on with that. But there's no bloatware, so that's good. This mouse is not, I think this mouse might actually be defective. Tap with a finger. Okay, so if I turn this off, nothing's going to work. I'm just seeing if maybe they disabled like the click. Yeah, like it's not registering clicks. Like I am pushing this mouse button down and it's not. See, I can't even drag this window around. There we go. So now I got it. It's weird. It's like over here it doesn't click. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time with this trackpad. I'm going to regret this, but let's turn off this. Yeah, it's just not always registering a click. See how it goes out? See? So, yep. So Eric, I'm surprised that your laptop is not compatible with Windows 11. I have a feeling you might have to, if you jump into the BIOS, you might be able to turn that on. And Metro North has a good point here too. It'd be kind of cool if it had a Ryzen version. That would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, so let me get the specs on this. I'm going to go to the Framework website, and let's take a look and see what they have here. So I'm just trying to get a feel for what's inside of this one. So Josh got the professional version. So let's go to configure here. Yeah, so he got the professional one, which has the 1185 G7. Oh, this has 32 gigs of RAM. So let's go and double check that, make sure that's what he got on his. Well, the good news is that he can replace the trackpad himself. They just have to send him a new one. Yes, this has 32 gigs of RAM. This is actually a pretty well configured machine here. Not bad. All right, so why don't we run some benchmarks on this while we're chatting. And to do that, I'm going to, where did it go? I had my little hard drive in front of me here. See, every time I go do one of these live streams, things just like disappear from my desk. So here is my USB 3 cable. This one looks not so USB 3, but let's take a look and see what the... And let's pop this into the USB-A port here. I'm going to go grab my Steam install. I also got to put Chrome on here for our browser bench test. Yeah, you know what it is? It's like right here, it doesn't register clicks. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I am just going to install Chrome. Look what happens when you try to install Chrome on Edge. It's like, no, you will not do this. All right, download Chrome. This trackpad is terrible. I just feel like it's a defective trackpad. So I don't like that, and I don't like the trackpad. But the good news is, you can just swap it out. Yes, that's right, one bag. Everybody needs to go to Rugged Ridge Forest and buy some maple syrup from Josh. That's correct. Okay, so we're in here, and I'm just going to go grab Steam now and get that going. So we're going to run our 3D Mark benchmarks on this thing. So I have that 3D Mark benchmark installed on the hard drive. Now the trackpad's working better, so I wonder if I had to just like break it in a little bit. That could be. So unfortunately, Josh does not sell maple syrup on Amazon. I've been trying to get him to do that because I think that would expand his market significantly. I've got to talk to him about it because they actually have like a whole like small business artisanal thing. So I am going to bring that up with him. But I guess he's got some traveling planned before the season begins. So he's looking to do that first. All right, bear with me, folks. Just got to get into my Steam account real quick. Steam supports. Okay, bear with me, folks. Okay, finish. Okay, so now we're going to just go ahead and run. You know, it's cool. They just set up, by the way, this Steam Deck verified thing, so you know like what's compatible with the Steam Deck. I thought that was kind of neat. Excuse me, losing my voice here. All right, so let's go over to see what I mean? Yeah, trackpad's still not good. I will inform Josh that he needs to talk to them about the trackpad on this thing. I gotta click. They changed the interface on adding the secondary drives. There we go. So what I do is I install a bunch of stuff on the external drive. And what's nice about this is that you don't have to wait to download everything every time you want to test the computer out. So this drive, this is a, it's actually not that expensive. This is a PNY 480 gigabyte drive here that does that. Okay, so let's go do a little 3D mark here. And then we'll connect the we're going to run 2 tests on this, and then after this we will play a couple of games just to see how it does on that, and then I'll shoot the review after I have lunch. Give some impressions on it. So Codeman says, yeah, it definitely feels very first gen to me. And the fan, it's making some noise here. It's not silent. It doesn't have the high pitch whine that a lot of fans do on these smaller laptops. But I do like that it's, a 3x2 display. Get the camera positioned here because we're going to do some benchmarks on it in a few minutes. Yeah, I kind of agree with this statement. Now imagine if Apple made their systems as easy to upgrade as this thing, it kind of aspires to be. Because I think the MacBook Air is a great example of the difference in philosophy. So for example, let's say like next month, Intel comes out with some crazy new ARM architecture that's as fast as M1, right? You would have to buy a whole new laptop from another company. What you would do with this one is swap out the motherboard. So you buy a new motherboard, pop it in, and now you've got a faster laptop for just the cost of the motherboard. And that's kind of the philosophy that they do with this. Yeah, I will definitely check that on the mouse issue, Manuel. That fan is working. Now, I guess their objective here is to have it run at a continuous 28 watts is their mission with the fan. So it's definitely pretty loud. I mean, I've worked with fans that are not as loud as this. Now, granted, we are installing stuff. We're about to run a benchmark on it, so I think that, of course, would have an impact. So yeah, we'll run Wildlife. The first one I'm going to run is Time Spy, because that's the one we always run. But it's got, and this, by the way, it has the Intel Xe graphics on board as well. So I'm just going to run this. Let's see where it comes in. If it comes in significantly lower than what we've seen before on this similar processor, we'll double check the drivers and everything. But I would expect this to perform at the level we've seen the Lenovo's and some of the other ones perform at. It's just, it's a 1185 G7. Codeman wants to know, what's the last game I played? Last night, my kids and I played Animal Crossing, getting ready for the update. That's what we played last night. What did I play last? I haven't really sat down to play a game in a while. I've been just watching sci-fi stuff. At the end of the day, I'm so teched out that I just can't play another game. I have so many games I want to play. I have Game Pass, and I just don't even know where to start anymore. It's so good, I just don't know where to start. So I've been futzing around on the streaming thing. I guess on Game Pass now you can stream to your console, or you'll be able to do that soon. So we'll let this just kind of run. So what it does is it runs a demo first, and then it goes into the main event. Now what's interesting is that it's stretching to the display here, which I'm guessing is kind of a driver thing. Now, one of the things I always like to remind people about is that when this benchmark runs, it will run slowly. It'll appear to run slowly. So if we had a GPU on board, it would go a little quicker. But even with a GPU, this really pushes the limits. But what's neat about this is that this laptop has the Intel Iris graphics. So it is completely on the CPU die as one component. So Mark is wondering, can we hook up? I'm assuming, Mark, you mean a network adapter like a NIC? You know what? I don't know if they offer that. Let me look and see. Let me go through and just kind of like configure one and see if they have a... You know, it's funny, they don't offer a network adapter. Which is crazy. You would think that that would be an obvious module to plug in, but no, there's no network adapter available, so you'd have to hook up a USB-based one. I think this benchmark would be an awesome VR game. I think I've talked about that before. Like because if you think how like the dynamic of the time spy mirror and the hand reaching through, it was like a perfect VR control. Like that's like what you would expect out of a VR game. Gladys is wondering, can you hook up an external GPU? I don't think so. I mean, people are in the chat are saying that this is this is like Thunderbolt, one-lane Thunderbolt, that it just isn't certified by Intel, but I can't find anything to suggest that this is anything but USB, and under that circumstance, it would not allow an external GPU. My guess is that they're going to offer a larger version that will have a GPU component. That's my guess. So let me look up and see. Framework laptop Thunderbolt. Let's see if there's anything about that. You may have to hook it up and see. So the problem is that my brother only got one USB-C module, so I can't run power to this and run I guess I could hook up that Thunderbolt dock that I've got. I do have a Thunderbolt external GPU over there we could plug in. But the question is, I'm just thinking out loud here, it's probably, if it supports USB 4, So it looks like somebody's has been able to hook up a GPU to this. So we'll hook up mine in a little while. We'll give it a shot. Let this benchmark run out first, though. Get the native performance. I happen to get in a new Thunderbolt 3-port dock, so this is a good opportunity to try that out at the same time. All right, so let this finish out here. It's actually running pretty well for an Intel, an Intel-based thing here, so that's pretty good. I guess the big question with this would be they have to kind of create the ecosystem for this, right? Because there's no standard laptop motherboard size, which they hope to create. So, if that were to happen, conceivably you could see, different brands of motherboards that could be swapped in. The problem is that it also kills their value proposition, because if if you're not buying the hardware from them, what do you do after that? So my guess is they're banking on the industry not conforming to a standard and they will be the standard. But the fan is, you know, it's not quiet. But it's not a high-pitched noise, so it doesn't sound like whiny. It just sounds like a fan running. All right, so here's our score. And let me go and pull up my benchmark. If you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see where this falls in. And if I go and look here, yeah, this is like right where I would expect it to land. It's actually on the higher end of things. So, you know, this is, I'm just looking on the list here. You know, it's above the Ryzens like I would expect. Yeah, actually it's about where the Yoga, so we looked at the Yoga 9i from Lenovo that has the same processor, so it's coming in right where that one is coming in, so that's what I would expect. So this is going to be the Framework Laptop Pro, Professional I guess is what they call it. This is a i7 1185G7 I think is the processor. Let's double check that. Yep, 1185G7. So it is right where it should be. And it's on the higher end of a lot of these higher end Intel machines, so it's good, performance-wise. And this is a great test because I've been running it for a while, so you can really compare it to a lot of the other ones out there. And if you go into Lon.TV/benchmarks, what I will do is highlight the framework in yellow right now so you can see it on the chart. So if you got to click on the TimeSpy tab on the bottom, but I will light it up for you there so you can see it. All right, so now there was some question as to how it would do with an external GPU. So I happen to have one, and in order to use it and still power the laptop, we're going to have to get another piece of hardware into the mix here. So let's first bring the GPU over. So this is my GPU. It's a rather big device here. And I got to plug it in. Now the other thing I've got to do is go grab a USB or a Thunderbolt hub that I have that I got in recently. Let me go grab that real quick. Because Josh only got one. He only bought one USB-C port, which doesn't make it easy to do what we're going to do here. So now I got to find where my wife put all the stuff that just came in, because one of the things that just came in is the thing that I need to do this demo with. Where did it go? Hang on a second. Let me go back upstairs and see if it's where I thought it was left. She moved everything again. Oh, here it is. All right, so to solve our problem here and see if this is going to work, we have this from Pluggable. This is one of these 3-port Thunderbolt hubs. And this apparently just came out. This is similar to the this is actually similar to the one that we looked at from OWC, except it doesn't have the extra USB-A port. But it should allow us, and it's not going to be the best performance. So what we're looking at here, because we're going to be sharing the Thunderbolt port. Now, the only thing on the Thunderbolt port is going to be the eGPU. So conceivably, this should not introduce any significant issues here, and I'm going to add it to the product carousel real quick if it lets me. And we're going to do another stream with this device, kind of testing it out and benchmarking it and everything. Pluggable Thunderbolt, what do they call this thing? Thunderbolt hub. I don't know if it's available. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 189. Okay. So I'm going to pull that up on our live stream here real quick. And let's see if this will do what we want it to do. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to find a good spot for it, is we're going to plug in the eGPU into this thing. And there's some other stuff in here. Look at this. It comes with like a little USB-A connector. That's nice of them. Or a little, also an HDMI output. That's what that is. Actually give you some good stuff in the box here. Here's a power adapter and the Thunderbolt cable. By the way, what's nice about Thunderbolt cables is that they work with everything. So even if you don't have a Thunderbolt device to connect, Thunderbolt cables are compatible across all of the USB stuff. So they support power delivery, they support display alt mode, they work with everything. All right. Now, what'll be interesting is to see if this GPU gets recognized without having to install a bunch of extra Thunderbolt drivers. And I have a feeling it's going to work through the USB framework there, pardon the pun. And then we're also going to have to plug in another monitor because you lose performance when you run. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to run it through the internal display just to see if it works. That's what we're going to do. Now this is an AMD-based device. The GPU. This is an Intel computer, but the GPU is AMD. Let's plug this in here. I'm going to unplug this. Oh, my hard drive is floating around there. And we're going to plug this into this. And then I got to plug in the GPU. Okay, and Windows, did it like it? I missed what the message said there, so let's see if it gives me anything. Use a different USB port. The USB port might have limited functionality. Huh. Well, we'll try a couple different things. And let's turn this sucker on here. A little coil whine going on there. Okay. Well, it detected a VGA controller, it says, so that's encouraging. And I'll just download some, some of the AMD GPU drivers. I forgot what I have in this case. I bought this to test out the MacBooks. Oh, that's another thing. I wonder if those new MacBook Pros will support external GPUs. They may not need to. So we'll see what we get here. All right, so while that is setting up, I'm going to go over to AMD and get the drivers. So it looks like it's taken it because it's now detected a PCI device. And I'm just going to grab like the auto detector because let's just see if it picks it up. Yeah, it picked it up. All right, so you know what I'm going to do here is it wants me to reboot, so let me reboot. So if it's not completely Thunderbolt compatible, it's probably USB 4, which has some provision for this to work there. So So we're going to reboot, see what happens. And just so you know what we're doing, because my brother only ordered one USB port, we're using this pluggable Thunderbolt hub to kind of route everything through. And we encountered this last time. It like sits on a black screen for a while before you see the display light up. Although it could be routing all the display through this right now, so I may have to get that monitor hooked up. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to get up, I'm going to step away, and then everything's going to start working. So that's how it usually works around here. So let me go get my table cleared off here. And I will stick a monitor next to it so we can see what's going on here. Put this right over here, just so I can see what's going on. Yeah, so that's blank, but I think it's blank because there's no... Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run it through this thing. I know I'm looking for trouble with this, but let's see what happens. All right, so I'm going to give you my... We're going to connect it to my NDI box and see what happens there. And this is always problematic because whenever I do this, it crashes vMix. Yeah, it's not picking up anything. Let's see here. No signal detected, it says. Yeah, so right now I don't see anything, although if I switch this, the fan is sure going on the on the laptop, so I have no idea what's going on. So let's disconnect the GPU real quick and see. So it did, like the hardware detection worked, like it did detect the presence of the GPU. But I'm just going to pull it out of the hub here for a second and just see. Oh my goodness, that thing's really in there. Oh, wow. Let's see if it switches back to the other display. All right, so nothing on the display here, so let's power it off for a second. Yeah, I think I really upset it. Yeah, so now it's kind of stuck. There it goes. So I'm going to boot it up without the GPU, and then we'll plug it in after it boots up. Oh, it didn't come back. Now I'm getting green flashing lights, so it's not good. Yeah, the fan's going again. All right, the display's coming back. There we go. All right, so I didn't break it. Josh will kill me. Although I'm doing the things that like they want you to do with this. Okay, here we go. So we'll jump back in here. I'm going to scan my fingerprint. Yeah. All right, hang on a second. See, no signal yet, but we're going to get there. So let me. No, it's wrong. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we're back. Okay, so right now we are not on the GPU. So let's plug in the GPU again and see what happens here. Plug that in there like that. All right, so GPU's coming up. Setting up a device. We're setting up the PCI device. This time I'm not going to reboot. And if I crash, I will be back in a minute. This happens sometimes with my NDI when new stuff gets going here. Okay, so now we're plugged in. We got the pluggable hub going here. And I'm going to go down to the Radeon software installer and see if it picks it up automatically here. Now what this installer should do is it should pick up on whatever GPU we have installed. I did see it detect it before, so that was encouraging. Yeah, so check it out. It sees it. Radeon RX 580, which is what's in here. So let's install. And we might see it actually just pop up. So let's see here. Now Thomas says the expansion card isn't Thunderbolt compatible, although my understanding is these are simple pass-throughs, right? So it should be. But if not, I can take it out and just plug it in directly and see what happens. But it did detect it. Although I'm not getting any display output yet. But we'll see what happens when this finishes up. And to make this work, we're using a Thunderbolt hub. All right, so now it's going to restart. Do we trust it to come back up with the thing on here? We'll see. So we're going to wait for the reboot here. All right, the display is coming back this time, which is good. I'm seeing something on the secondary display now. I'll show it to you in a second here. Right now it's just black. But let's see what we get. So there's definitely something initializing. Yeah, but I think this is the RX 580. I bought this when I got the Mac Mini with Intel because I wanted to. So I think I got the enclosure before that. This is the enclosure I've got. This was an Akidio, which is now owned by OWC. And so you just install it's like a expansion slot with a power supply. And that's what I put in there. So we've got this running into this, and then this going into the computer. And we're kind of getting the same thing we had happen last time. But I'm kind of inclined to let it just sit here for a minute and see if we get anywhere. All right, see what I'll do is I will pull out that expansion thing and just plug in directly, as Thomas says we should try. So why don't we do that real quick? Because something's happening, but I don't see anything. All right, so I'm going to pull this out. Let's see what happens when I pull this out. So the video dropped out immediately off of my NDI thing. Oops. And we'll pull out the module and see if that might. And it's actually just got like a little USB-C port right in there, so I can just plug in directly. So that's the next thing we're going to try. So we're going to shut it off now, because now that I've got that driver installed, I want to see what happens after I boot and hot install it and see if that works. Because right now it's just running its fans. It's like stuck in a loop. So I want to boot it without it in, and then I'll run this cable deep in the crevice here. You got to have to plug it straight in to the side. And yeah, Glass, we have an external display attached. You can't see it, but I am running it into my video system. So there is an external display that's hooked up right now. All right, so now we're going to plug in the eGPU. Oh, it's still installing. How about that? It's like, oops, something went wrong. Radeon software. Great. Let's just plug this in and see what happens. This is not as elegant as it would be on a regular Thunderbolt port. All right, so now we've got it plugged in like inside the module there. And we'll just let it kind of do its thing here for a minute and see what happens. So Marius wants to know, am I getting the new MacBook Pro? Yes. So if you go on my Twitter, twitter.com/LONSEIDMAN, you will find my full specification that I ordered. So I got the one with the Max one, because why not? The Max is bigger than the non-Max. It's got more stuff. All right, so this is configuring. See, it keeps saying it needs to restart. I'm not going to restart it this time. I'm just going to install that driver now without restarting and see if that, because it's not detecting an external display. It is detecting like the GPU properly. We're not seeing like the secondary display. And I don't think we're making use of what we have available to us here. So let's install this again and see what happens. So we may have to install the Thunderbolt drivers too. Okay, so that might be why it's not working. So we'll grab the Thunderbolt stuff too and see what happens. Well, this is definitely like a system you got to tweak a little bit, right? All right, let's try installing this first and see what happens. Because it is seeing it. It's like, hey, there's the RX 580. It's definitely checking it. But this is good because I'm glad that we're trying this out, because it's good to know whether or not. Oh, this is for NUC. I don't have a NUC. Hang on a second. Yes, I don't know if there's a driver that you can get for this. Which is why I suspect this is like detecting through the you know, if this is getting detected through the USB. Yes, if we reset now, it's not going to work. We'll try it, but I have a pretty strong feeling we're going to be right back where we were before, where it just sits at a blank screen. The difference now, though, is we're not running through the module. We took the module out. So let's see what happens. There are people on the forums that said they got the external GPU to work. So we'll see. But you see how ridiculous this can get, right? Like you get this huge honking box next to this tiny laptop. All right, so my external display is now black, as is the laptop screen. But I think we're going to get caught in the same loop we were in the last time. NeuroBioboy wants to know, will we test Linux? We probably won't test Linux on this because it is compatible with Linux, and you have control over the components. And I'm definitely not going to get into the weeds on the eGPU on Linux, especially if it doesn't work on Windows, because Windows typically is pretty turnkey. And yes, there is an actual monitor connected to the eGPU. It's just not displaying anything. The monitor's off camera right now. But what I will do, just to be safe, is I will plug it in. I will just hook up an actual monitor and see if it gives me anything. I don't think it's going to result in any difference, but why not try it real quick? Just got to grab a power cord. Yeah, because right now it's still blank. Yeah, so it's detecting it, but it's not giving us an image. Now, typically on a Thunderbolt laptop, when you get it all going, it just comes up, like it just works. So my suspicion here is that we are not going to see this working, but it was worth a shot. And it doesn't mean that it won't work in the future, because it is like it's detecting the hardware. So it's like, hey, I got this RX whatever. So I'm going to plug in the monitor here and just see if we get anything different. So I've got the monitor installed. We're on HDMI 1, and it's got nothing. Oops. Bear with me, folks. Yeah, so just a blank screen. And we'll put it on monitor 2 here just to see if there's anything coming in. Nada. Yeah, so that's going to require, I'll do a little more digging on that, but at least for my eGPU, it doesn't appear to work. Now, one thing I can try, because it could be the hub here that's screwing around with this. So let's disconnect the power, and we'll plug the eGPU directly without power in. And this again is because my brother did not, oh, actually, you know what? The power issue is not an issue, because I can just plug in, I can just take out another one of these modules and plug in power directly that way. So that's not as big of an issue as I thought it was going to be. Let me just plug this in here real quick. Okay, so that's plugged in directly now without the hub. And let's see if that makes any difference. All right, so now we're plugged in directly without the hub. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to plug in power to the other port. So let me just take this one out here on this side. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to go back to getting the games loaded up and running on it real quick just to get some game footage. So I'm going to plug power in to this one because it doesn't need, you don't need to have the modules installed. You can just run it without the module into the port. All right, let's see if this results in anything different. So now we've got the GPU directly connected, and we've got power connected separately. We're not using the hub. So it could be the hub was causing issues. So now we're going to try it without, see if that makes a difference. So Austin wants to know, how do I feel about Linus investing in the company? Well, I think it's a smart move by him because his viewers would buy a laptop like this. The question would be whether or not there's any market for general consumers for something like this. And I think that's the question. I would be excited about something that allowed me to swap out a GPU, for example, in addition to the motherboard. Now, this doesn't have a GPU. It just has the Intel chip. So, there's a lack of a option there. Yeah, this doesn't seem to work at all. I'll try a few more things, but I'm not confident that, because the fan is just going, but it's not booting. We're not getting anything on the display over there. Let's make sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's not working. I'm guessing this is like a driver issue, because it is picking it up. It's like, hey, I see the PCI Express port. I see the GPU. It named it. It detected it when we went to install drivers, but it just doesn't get across the finish line. So I am going to try one last thing, which is to boot it up again without, and just see if that monitor picks up anything when I plug it in, because we didn't have the monitor connected last time. And Mind Choices Zone podcast is on here. Hello. On the Amazon chat. So let's see what we get now. Yeah, well, I didn't see, Thomas, I did not, all I saw on the Intel website was like drivers for specific computers like NUCs and stuff. I didn't see a specific driver for this computer. Okay, so now, but I am seeing people on the forums reporting that they're getting these things to work. So I need to dig into this a little bit more. So I do want to get some B-roll shot. And as I start writing up my document for the review I'm going to shoot, I will definitely explore some additional drivers and that sort of thing. And yeah, Raymond, we tried this already. That's what we're doing now. It didn't work. So now it's plugged in. The problem is that the drivers want to reboot and then have the computer come back up. But it's just not outputting anything. We'll let it detect again and see if it picks it up. Let me go into the system settings here too. I mean, generally with a Thunderbolt laptop, you plug it in and, oh, wait a minute, something's happening. Hang on a second. Oh, now it's working. Now it's working. It did for a split second there. Okay. It wants me to reboot again. The problem if I reboot with this thing plugged in, it's not going to come back up again. All right, so now I've got a mirrored image coming through this on the display that you can't see. Now that driver, Thomas, was for the Intel NUC. So I don't know if that's going to work or not, but here's what we're going to try. We're going to, this freaking trackpad is all out of whack. Yeah, now the computer's like, I can't close the display options here. Let's see. So let's see if I can force it to the second screen only. And I'm going to look through the, so you know what I'm going to do now is let's see if I can get this to mirror out the back so you all can see what I see. So bear with me here, everybody. Oops. Bear with me here, everybody. We're going to try one more thing here. But I am seeing stuff, so that's a good sign that something might be working now. All right, let's try this again here. If I crash, I'll be right back. All right, so that doesn't display on my NDI thing, but I do have a display up here. So I'm going to do my best here to share with you what I see. Oops, ah! Might collapse my entire thing here. Okay, so now I'm going to keep playing with this here. So let me go get a mouse. Actually, I can probably just work with it this way. Okay, so now it is running off the eGPU. And what I can do is just run that 3D mark test again just to ensure that it does in fact work. So I think we just want a confirmation that it works. At least that's what I'm going with here. All right, so show only on 2. Go to advanced display settings. I can't even like access this control panel, which is really weird. Because the mouse is now completely dysfunctional. At least in the sense that I can't click on the start menu, but I can use the keyboard to pull it up. Yeah, something's not right here. It thinks I'm like double clicking on everything now. Yeah, so the good news here is that it does appear to be working. Oh, Steam is up. Okay, so let me go just log into that real quick. Because right now we're running completely through the eGPU. And so what we'll do, just for the heck of it, is just launch that same benchmark we just ran, just to ensure that the GPU is actually doing something. What's not working is that it's not outputting any video to my system over there, but that's okay. And again, I'm not looking for performance necessarily. I'm just looking to see if it works. Like, is it possible? Okay, so it is detecting the RX 580. And we are running through that RX 580 right now. So we should see, when this is done, a better score. And I apologize, I can't give you a better view of it. Maybe I'll hold it. I'll hold it for you so you can see as it runs. And I don't even know what display I'm at, resolution I'm at. I think I'm at 1080p. It's gonna run at the resolution it always runs at. So. So yeah, so what we've got right now is I've taken out, just so everyone knows what's going on, I took out the two modules that we had installed because this is my brother's. He got like a bunch of these USB-A modules and not enough of the USB-C modules. But inside is a USB port that these things connect to because they're just little USB plugs. So I could plug this into my MacBook and it would likely work. So what we did instead is we just running these cables like underneath the keyboard deck into those module slots directly. Yeah, this doesn't appear to be running that great, but I am pretty sure, like, it has to be running off the GPU right now. So I think what's going on here is that it's running the demo at 4K, and that's why it's running so slow. Because before we were running it at like 1080p on the laptop's display. So this is not an area of concern just yet. Let me see if I can get past that part and just go to the test. Can I skip the demo, in other words? It's going to crap out on me, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. You know what? It doesn't feel like it's accelerated here. It does feel a little sluggish. Let's take a look here. Go to display 1. Ah, yeah, we were at, I'm going to put it down to 1080p. That feels a little zippier. This GPU is not like, yeah, it doesn't feel right. Hang on. Display settings. There is like an AMD thing running here. You know what I think I might do is try to get these drivers installed. And it could just be, somebody had mentioned that this is only running at like a one-lane Thunderbolt scenario. So it's possible that it just doesn't have the bandwidth to perform as we would expect. Let me try to get these Radeon drivers installed here and see if that works. Because even just moving windows around feels slow to me at 1080p. It shouldn't feel that sluggish. So I just want to see if maybe I don't even know what driver we're at. Let's try it again first before I go through this whole rigmarole again. just the windows don't feel like they're drawing very quickly. You'll see it here when I pull up. See that? It just doesn't look like it's running all that quickly. Although it could be, I've seen this before, where this stupid thing like runs at 1080p, but it's still rendering at 4K. Yeah, it's like active signal is running at, all right, let's just run it again and see what happens. Yeah, this GPU is running fine. The power supply on the eGPU is pretty beefy. So it usually runs like at the speed you would expect. So it could be, this is like where you get in, this is where I hate getting into the weeds on this stuff, because clearly they're not advertising Thunderbolt compatibility. So there could be something related to how they have the Thunderbolt, or whatever we're using here, working, that creates a bottleneck. And they haven't communicated that this is a use case that would work. If this had an advertised Thunderbolt port, like everything we just went through would not be what we just experienced here. We are at a 1080p resolution now, so let's see if that runs the demo a little quicker. And I'm just going to let it play through. And then we'll disconnect everything, get back to our default state. I'll record some stuff a little later. I'm going to have lunch in a little while, I think. But it's always good to experiment and see what we... But you see how things start. You start with the laptop, and before you know it, you've got hardware all over the place. And one thing that's telling is that yeah, that runs a little better now. One thing that's telling here is that it didn't like the hub with this, which leads me to think that there's some Thunderbolt issues here. Although Thomas Yamfang says I should try to install that driver and see if that might work. So I'll keep playing around with it a little bit. I just don't feel like this is a use case that I'm going to recommend to people. You can try it, but it may not result in an outcome that is favorable. How's that sound? And no, we are not mirroring displays. We turned off the internal display, because that usually, if you have it run through the internal display, you'll lose a lot of performance. So, and what I'm not sure about is how this RX 580 should perform. I'm thinking at 1080p it should perform better than what we're seeing here. But I don't know what it's trying to render at right now, so we'll wait until it runs the test proper and see if that gives us a better result here. But like what I'm looking for here is like somebody's looking to buy this thing. Is it just going to work like a regular Windows laptop with Thunderbolt would work? Right now it doesn't. Without having to go hunt around for drivers and futz around forever. I mean, it doesn't seem like, if that's your use case, that this is going to be a good one. And yes, I could keep messing with it, but like to answer the question, right now, it's not ideal. It works, but not like I got Lenovo's in the corner there. I could plug that in and it would just work. This doesn't work. But it's working more than I thought it would work. So that's kind of where it's at right now. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm surprised that it works at all. So that's kind of where we're at with it. And for whatever reason, my brother loves the USB-A connectors, because he's got 3 of them in the box here. All right, so here is the test proper. So let's see how it does with this. And part of the problem is that rebooting, which the Radeon drivers require, yeah, this isn't working right. We should be doing much better than this. Yeah, I'll keep messing around with it. But I am not confident that this is going to work. So let me try the drivers one more time, and then I'm going to give up and go get some lunch. So let's do this. We'll go install. I'm going to turn off the factory reset that it's recommending because that seems to be where we get into trouble. And let's see what happens here. Now on an Intel Mac, you plug this thing in, it just works. Like you don't have to do anything. It just like comes on. And it gives you like instant speed increases, but not on the M1. Doesn't work on the M1. I doubt it's going to work on the MacBook Pro. It doesn't need to because it's got like a 3080 equivalent kind of performance, but we'll see what develops here. All right, so now we're getting a display reset. It's still trying to get me to restart. I am not going to fall for that. Okay, installation complete. All right. I'm going to click finish here rather than restart. Let's see. Oh yeah, this thing's really not happy. Okay, there we go. All right, we did get the driver installed, and now it's like deciding what to do with itself. Okay. I am not restarting. I'm going to resist your temptation. Although the Windows now, yeah, it's still sluggish. I have a feeling this is a bandwidth issue. See that? It's super sluggish. And it's working in that it's outputting display. But I'm going to take Thomas up on his suggestion. Let's try this real quick. I'm just going to type in Thunderbolt drivers Intel. And I'm going to install this NUC one and see if it detects anything. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. But somebody said early on today that this is like a 1x Thunderbolt scenario, and if that's the case, that would explain the poor video performance. You know, one lane. But what concerns me here is that after a reboot, we don't get anything coming back up. With that GPU plugged in, yeah, it's failing. So that's what it is. I'm going to try a reboot. I'm going to unplug. I'm going to shut down. And I'm going to unplug the eGPU, reboot. And let's see what happens. Because if we leave the thing plugged in, it doesn't reboot. But you see what I'm saying here? Like this is not something that's just working like a Thunderbolt advertised computer. This is not a Thunderbolt advertised computer, so I don't want to, mislead anybody. But I think this is something where people are like, oh, I can hook an eGPU up to it? Well, you can, but this is what it's going to look like when you do it. All right, so I just plugged it back in again. Let's see if it switches over. So this is a little bit less eventful than the last one. Okay. And now it wants another reboot. Let's see if it's any quicker. Yeah, it's still slow. Yeah, I have a feeling that this is really not designed for this. So that is probably it. All right. I'm not going to spend too much more time on it. It could be, if it's got the underlying Thunderbolt technology installed, that it could be something that could be useful like this in the future, but it doesn't appear as though. And I think that's, honestly, I think that's probably, next to the floppy display here, my concern with this, it's not a bad computer. It performs really well on the Intel side. My concern, though, let me just unplug everything here, is the exclusion of Thunderbolt to me on a product that's designed for the enthusiast crowd is kind of a puzzling decision. And I don't know if it's a political thing with Intel or licensing or what. But like that's the use case for people who, they want all of that expandability, and Thunderbolt is one way to deliver that. So that is something that we'll explore. I mean, it's not a bad computer by any stretch. I think it's a nice machine. I especially like how easy it is to get into it. So we'll put these things back on here. But I'm going to be kind of hung up on this Thunderbolt thing, because it's kind of a weird omission that you wouldn't put Thunderbolt on a computer being marketed at this segment. All right. Yeah, let's hope they do. And like I said, somebody came on earlier and said that there was only a one-lane Thunderbolt on this, if it even has it. So it may not even have the bandwidth to do that. But that's it. I mean, they definitely have an uphill battle with this. I think it's a great. I like it a lot. The challenges they have are, can you build a big enough market? I think you can build it for the market that's there, because honestly, like Linus made a good move. Linus could market this as his like preferred laptop brand and can sell a lot of them just to his audience. I think that definitely can happen, especially if they have like a larger one in the works with a GPU that you can swap out. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, I'm gonna have to dig into this Thunderbolt thing a little bit more. I'm just not seeing it. And it's just surprising, like as I said, like you would think it just would work, or if it had it, like it would work, or they would have some, wink and a nod to get things going there. So we'll have to, because it seems like that, like I'm just looking through their community discussions right now, that seems to be a big discussion point. So I will dig into that a little bit more before I finish up my evaluation of this. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, I like the ease in which you can get into it. They correctly say that this screwdriver is all you need, and that is really all you need. You can get into this thing super easily. Fairly attractive. It's nothing fancy, but it looks modern. Not that heavy. A little heavier than my. Kind of in the ballpark there. The fan is a little noisy on it when it's going, so that's one thing I noticed, but very easily upgradable to the extent that you can upgrade it. At the moment, the processor, you have to swap out the entire motherboard to do the processor. So what they are going to do, they say, is create or encourage the community to create an ability to build it into a desktop. So when this motherboard ages out, take it out, make it into a desktop computer, sell it to somebody, and then pop in the new motherboard. So yeah, I've got to dig around here and see, because everyone's saying Thunderbolt works. That's not what I'm seeing, that it works, but not really well. So we'll have to dig into this a little bit and see how we can get it working, or at least I can get to a point where I can explain it. So we'll look into this. Because the other concern that I have, if it does work, is does it have enough lanes? Because to have a PC with 4 Thunderbolt ports on it would be great, if that's what this has. So that's the big holdup here. So I need to get an answer to this. So if anyone has any good articles they can send me that I can dig into this a little bit further, I would love to see those. And what I have from the framework team is somebody saying that they have to be certified to claim it's compatible. And they're being very cagey about their response here. So all 4 ports are designed to have matching functionality with the 11th generation Intel-based mainboard in the framework laptop. So my guess is that this will be Thunderbolt compatible. It just isn't at the moment, or it isn't easily compatible. Well, you know what I'm going to do? My brother knows the guy. I'm just going to email him, and I'll find out from him directly. Even if it's off the record, I can get an idea. All right. Well, I am going to dig into this a little bit further and see what we end up with here. But no, it's pretty cool. For a first product, not bad. And I love how easy it is to get into it. So you missed it earlier. It'll be in the review when I shoot the review. But what's cool is that all you have to do is unscrew the 5 screws on the bottom. And then the entire keyboard deck here is not adhered to the bottom, so it doesn't even need a spudger. You can just grab the edge with your fingernail and it just pops up because it's magnetically attached. And the same is true of the front bezel on the display. So there's nothing glued in. You can just get into it really easily. So I think that's going to be a fun little test there. But there are people doing eGPU tests, so I will dig around on that and see what I can say on just to be accurate. I think it's going to work with them eventually, is what I think. And if it's got if it does have the potential for 4 Thunderbolt ports, that's great, because you don't see that on these little tiny laptops that are not Macs. And in fact, you don't see it on the Macs that are this size, because I'm pretty sure the MacBook Pro 13 only has 2 Thunderbolt ports, not 4. And Thomas put up a video for me to take a look at. Framework laptop with dedicated graphics on YouTube. Okay, cool. So we'll check that out and see what we got going on there. Okay, well, I'm going to take a little break here. I'm going to do some more work on this, and I will have a review up probably tomorrow or Thursday on this one, I think. I need to do a little bit more with it, get some additional B-roll shot and stuff, but it's off to a good start. And this is my brother's, so I got to send this back to him like by the end of the week. He wants it back ASAP, he said, because there's other computers starting to go on them. So, but yeah, it's pretty good. So stay tuned, everybody. I appreciate the help, and we'll be back very soon to see what we get. Hudson Kappelman wants to know, did I get the expansion, the storage expansion? No, my brother, for some reason, like, he got 1 USB-C, and then he got 3 USB-As, because I guess that's what he needs on his. So no, I did not get the storage expansion. But I would imagine that would run at USB speeds. All right, I'll be back before you know it. And I've got more streaming coming up tomorrow. I've got a bunch of stuff I got to get tested, including that Thunderbolt dock, which we'll test with a Thunderbolt PC and a Mac. So that'll do it for now. I will be back very soon. So thanks for stopping by. Talk to you in a little bit, everybody. Bye-bye.